Hi friends, it's Chris and we are on day 10 of Inktober. Wow. We're a third of the way done through the month and time went by so quickly and so plenty things happened so far and I'm really happy with the different insights that I got into the drawing process plus, creating ink drawings almost every day just made me happy and proud of really committing to this project that I have right now. So on the table you see here now my initial sketch for my drawing for day 10, which the prompt word is sweep. So we'll go into voiceover and we're going to talk about something that is connected to what I drew for day 2, weaving, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. Today's prompt is sweep. When I heard this, my mind immediately went beyond simple cleaning and instead I envisioned a profound idea of sweeping away, erasing culture and people, which talks about also displacement of indigenous people. So I use this opportunity to really push myself when it comes to critical issues this Inktober, and this piece delves into the profound and painful reality that people are really being erased and being displaced from their domains. For sweep, I drew this hand holding a large paintbrush, actively sweeping the old layer of the indigenous people's nipahat there, which is symbolic of indigenous culture here in the Philippines. And you see here now some figures flung to the sky, which is literally people being displaced. The idea of displacement is not just a physical act, but it's also a profound idea of colonial and modern displacement. The drawing I had, I want it to depict sort of a physical manifestation of people being swept away from their domain, from their homes, from their motherland. And people historically have been swept away, and it is a historical but also an ongoing tragedy because of colonialism, where Europeans have contacted the indigenous population and displaced them or even forced them now to slavery and other acts against humanity. There's also now in the modern day developmental projects, such as hydroelectric dams, mining operations, loggings, and infrastructure projects continue to sweep away indigenous communities. Their land are declared empty or underutilized by powerful people, and then their original territories, the indigenous peoples, traditional territories, are quite literally paved over, flooded, or dug up. There's also instances of forced migration where the small figures in my drawing demonstrate families being flung away, forced to fly away, or tribes and communities being forced to leave their homes, often losing everything. This is because of acts against humanity such as war, forced slavery, or human trafficking. Beyond the physical now, the brush here symbolize also the cultural sweep, a deliberate or indirect erasure of indigenous peoples' languages, traditions, and identity. Language erasure is very profound, and it sticks hard in my heart because most of the indigenous languages here in the Philippines are dying out. And one thing that's very bad in our perspective right now, especially that we are a bit very Tagalog centric, is that other languages in the Philippines are deemed more as dialects, as if these languages spoken by ancestors even a millennia before the Spanish invasion already have developed, are just relegated to one centered language, which is not accurate. And in fact, Ilocano, Cebuano, language of the Maranao people, these are languages and not mere dialects. They are not offshoots of Tagalog, but their own identity and reflective of their own cultures. Just as we discussed in Day 2's Cordilleran Textiles, language is a vessel of culture. When a dominant language is imposed, indigenous languages are often suppressed or seen as inferior. The vibrant colors of the original landscape being covered by a dull uniform paint reflects the silencing of the unique linguistic expressions that we have. I remember in this one documentary that I watched, people of Indigenous America used to um, refer to directions not as east and west, but rather towards the sea or towards the mountains. And that speaks very beautifully of a view lens of life that is unique and is imbibed in the culture of people, and it's woven into the way they think. I remember another TED talk that I watched wherein there's this thing called your soul's language. And in his perspective, Irish was his soul's language because how else could he express the beautiful melody of how he perceives the world around him if not using the language that his soul speaks? Forced assimilation is also when sweeping over extends to practices, tradition, customs, spiritual beliefs, and even clothing are often forbidden or shamed. The goal of forced assimilation was to make the indigenous people indistinguishable from the dominant culture, effectively painting over their distinct identity. It's a shame that some of us perceive traditional indigenous clothing more of costumes rather than actually things that are worn in ceremonies or in day-to-day lives. It's unfortunate that this this vessel of way of identifying themselves are just relegated now to mere art, but it's actually ingrained in day-to-day activities. There's also in the Mindanao regions, some of the Islam women are being shamed for wearing their hijabs, which is actually a reflection of both their spirituality and their moral identity. Now, the saddest thing about displacement is when people are displaced, their cultural connection to their land, the stories, the ancestral sites, the knowledge of plants, animals are severely fractured or entirely lost. The very ground of their identity is also swept away. One of the reasons why indigenous people are also being displaced is because of eco-terrorism, wherein the natural resources from the land are being exploited by different capitalists. Now, I'm not opposed to capitalism, but I wish that we would shift towards a more consensuous capitalism, not stifling the people originally living in the land for the purpose of profit or gains. There's this other documentary that I watch, and yes, I've been watching a lot of documentaries. It's part of my guilty pleasures and pastimes while I'm at the office. It's playing in the background as my podcast. But anyway, in one of those documentaries that I was listening to while I was working, fig trees from Palestine have been replaced with pine trees, which, even if it's still, planting trees, the natural source of food of the people are being replaced by just ornamental plants that are not used for anything else rather than just for aesthetics. And when this non-indigenous people cut down the trees, it's easy for them now to just simply deforest the forest that they planted because they don't see it as something that they need to protect. It's just a mere plot of land that they can take away from whenever they want, and that's because they're not connected to the land that they colonized. The act of displacement and cultural erasure is not just about what's gone, it's about what remains. The smooth new surface conceals, but it does not truly erase. The memory that was beneath is still there, even if faint. The invisible scars are left on the land and in the hearts of the displaced. Generations carry the trauma of the loss. The act of painting over often is accompanied by rewriting history, where the narratives of the colonizers or developers become the official story, further erasing the indigenous people's experience, maybe even villainizing the indigenous people who try to defend their land. However, just as pain can chip or fade, there is always resistance. The small figure, though displaced, are still present, flying, not fully vanished. This symbolized the enduring spirit of the indigenous communities who continues to reclaim their language, land, and narratives, refusing to be permanently swept away. I plan to use this drawing as a springboard to a bigger piece, probably making this one into a bigger, more detailed watercolor or colored pencil artwork in order now to depict this even better and in more detail. As artists, as individuals, we have the responsibility not to let these stories be painted over. How can we advocate for the rights and recognition of Indigenous people? How can we help amplify the voices of those who have been swept aside? I hope that we are doing our best and making conscious effort to once again pay homage and respect to our Indigenous peoples. Again, October is not just Inktober, but Indigenous Peoples Month. So here's my drawing for day 10 of Inktober for the prompt word sweep. Now, this piece is a good concept, I think, that maybe eventually in the future I would consider repainting again, and maybe you'll see this in another media, maybe in watercolor or colored pencils. But I really have this fixation right now of this concept of really sweeping or like painting over and erasing the original culture that's there of the people. So, with that being said, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, week, month, year, and as always, I wish you all the love and, of course, peace. Take care.